Picasso, welcome back to Dynamic Touch. I've been seeing something on the internet that's really troubling and has really been bothering me. There's many people out there that have linked long hair to genetics. They're usually stating that long hair can only be obtained solely due to genetics and that genetics is the only reason for long hair. So I've been having a lot of thoughts and ideas of surrounding this topic. So before I begin, I want you guys make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, like and comment. We are fingers. What I mean by fingers, we are literally fingers away from launching that giveaway that I mentioned earlier, wink wink. So if you haven't already, make sure you do subscribe. Subscribe now. This giveaway is gonna be like no other, so make sure you do. Let's begin talking about these topics. So when people make statements like she only has long hair due to genetics, or people can only grow their hair due to genetics, what exactly do they mean by the word genetics? So let's further explore this term. Genetics means that certain individuals have special genes passed down from their loved ones, their past forefathers, or their parents that allows their hair to grow faster than others. When it comes down to science, the average rate of hair growth, it's between 0.5 inches per month to 1 inch per month. If you grow your hair at this rate, you are expected to have obtained 6 inches at least, right? 6 inches for that year. Keep that in mind. This average rate is common amongst all human beings, no matter what country of origin you come from. This rate is average. So it's very common that people grow their hair at 0.5 inches per month. I want you to also keep in mind that there are also individuals that can grow their hair faster than this rate or a bit slower than this rate. So there is wiggle room. So not everybody is at that average. You're either a little bit less than this or you're more, you grow your hair more than this. It's up to you to figure that out. So is genetics truly keeping individuals from growing their hair? No. And here's why. Hear me out. Before we explore this, I want to give 3 definitions, 3 terms I'm going to go over to better understand just hair growth in general. So keep that in mind. I'm talking about growth, length retention, and length. Growth equals how fast the hair grows out of your scalp. Length retention is the ability to hold onto your growth once it has sprouted out. And then length is a good sign that you're maintaining your hair that's coming from your scalp. So that is the hairs that are touching your shirt. That's length. So length is a sign that you're doing something good. It's a sign that you are maintaining the hair that's coming from your scalp. So I'm going to discuss 2 scenarios, and these 2 scenarios have 2 different women growing their hair at 2 different growth rates. So keep that in mind. The first woman, her growth rate is more than the average rate of 0.5 inches per month. This person ends up damaging their hair due to excessive dyeing, excessive manipulation, and styling. Poor styling choices. Because of the damage, this person now requires several cuts during the year. So these are major setbacks for this person. The total amount of inches that this woman now gains is 0. She has not grown anything because everything was taken away due to damage. Now, scenario number 2. The second woman, her growth rate is at a rate that's less than average, is less than 0.5 inches per month. Month to month, this woman, she maintains and upkeeps her hair by keeping it in protective styling and nurturing it very well. She has no major setbacks, no major cuts are required. She just lightly has to trim maybe once or twice this year. The total amount of growth that this woman now gains at the end of the year is 4.5 inches. That's 4.5 inches more than the woman from the first scenario who's now in a deficit of 0 inches. Comparing the two, who gained the most inches? Woman number 1, even though her hair rate is at a faster rate, or woman number 2, whose hair rate is at a less than average rate. The reason why I mentioned these 2 women in this scenario is because genetics is absolutely not stopping you from gaining long hair. If you want long hair, you can have it. So, is genetics keeping women from growing their hair long? No. Yes, there are people that have faster hair growth rates than you, but simply having a genetic head start should not limit those who hair grows at an average growth rate of 0.5 inches per month or less than this average. A point that I want to really stress and hone on in is as long as you have hair you have a growth rate that's attached to your hair. If you're balding, that's the only time that you won't have a growth rate. But as long as you have hair, you have a growth rate and your hair can grow. Now that we have debunked the myth that long hair can only be obtained solely due to genetics, now let's talk about some things that may be limiting you from obtaining long hair. Jesus is the key to your length and hair retention. I believe when we speak to God, inviting Him in and allowing Him to take care of all situations and circumstances that may come our way, He is able to move mountains on our behalf and turn those situations out for our good. Nothing is too hard for Him to handle. You just need faith. If lack of hair growth is your mountain, that mountain can be removed in the name of Jesus. So 2 Bible verses I want to spit out for you, spit out some facts, is Luke 18:27. And he said, the things which are impossible with men are possible with God. Number 2, Hebrews 11:6. And this is the New King James Version. But without faith, it is impossible to please Him. For he who comes to God must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. Point number 2, being consistently around family members that have only grown their hair to a certain length is stifling your progress. If your memories are filled with women who are close to you only having hair up to their chin, it is so easy to conclude that you can only grow your hair up to your chin. Even easy for you to pick up and mimic those hair care practices and habits of these individuals. The problem with this mindset is that you are unexpectedly putting limitations on your hair, and it prevents you from exploring your hair further and the possibilities of having long hair. Often it takes just one encounter with a person who looks like you and has hair like you to change your outlook on your hair and begin to further explore the possibilities of having long hair and growing long hair and caring for long hair. Keep in mind, this encounter is an opportunity not for jealousy, but one to give you major encouragement. Number 3, not giving your hair a proper chance to grow and thrive. You have to set goals that are realistic. A good place to start is to look at your hair month to month to establish your own personal hair growth goals. Remember guys, the average hair growth rate is 0.5 inches per month. Some grow their hair slightly less than this. Some people grow their hair slightly more than this. By the end of the 2-month mark, you should have a good estimate of how fast your hair grows. With this number, you can multiply it by 6 in order to calculate how much hair growth to expect at the end of the year. An example of this is, if you retain 1 inch in 2 months, you're gonna then multiply this number by 6 months, because there is 12 months in a year, but because you're calculating at a rate of every 2 months is now 6, that's the time frame. So you multiply by 6 and it should give you 6 inches in a year. Be open to experimenting with your hair and finding your own growth rate. Have patience and be willing to restructure the way you take care of your own hair. Give yourself a complete year to see changes in the length and thickness of your hair. Number 4, not finding hair techniques that work for you is one of your problems. The internet is full of information about hair care and growing your hair faster, longer. There's so much information out there, but what percentage of that information actually works well for you and your hair? What percentage of that information is actually going to give you the results you're looking for or you desire? Not every tip or knowledge about hair care affects each person the same when applied. Yes, of course you need information, but much more than this, you need techniques, knowledge, and tips that when applied over months and years will allow you to see a direct increase in your length and thickness. Science-based hair care alone or sticking with DIY hair care alone can be to your detriment. It's good to have a balance of these two things plus techniques. So techniques, DIY hair care, science-based hair care is going to equal the result you're looking for. Number 5, the belief that there's no hair products around that can help you grow your hair is another thing that's preventing you from getting long hair. This belief is false. It's year 2022. There's plenty of new products on the shelves coming out, have yet to come out. You just need help finding where they are in the marketplace and which ones your hair really loves and which ones your hair really hates. Number 6, pure laziness. Pure laziness can do a lot of harm to your hair if done incorrectly. What I mean by pure laziness is pure laziness to the point that you neglect your hair. If you want to be lazy with your hair care and still see your hair thrive, you have to do it correctly. You have to be lazy smart. Complete neglect of your hair is a big no-no. It's a big no-no. Not wanting to do your hair or to deal with your hair is completely okay. Many of us have really busy and hectic lifestyles, but the goal is to find a state of hair that you love your hair being in. The goal also is to find hairstyles and routines that are really simple and that cater to your lifestyle. That way you limit the chances of having major setbacks. A simple, well-structured routine is what you need. So there's no more excuses for you. If you do have a child that's taking care of their hair, the same goes for them as well. 7, you're setting yourselves up for great disappointment by getting lost in hair care gimmicks. You're so excited to gain long hair that you absorb all the information that's out there that will get you to grow your hair fast, super fast. When I'm talking about gimmicks, I want you to beware of statements such as major hair growth and faster hair growth. I also want you to be cognizant of these time frames such as 2 days, 1 week, 1 month. Beware. Okay. These are code words for gimmicks, hair care gimmicks. And what do I mean by gimmicks? A gimmick is anything that gives you hopes or promises that are too good to be true. Oftentimes they don't work, and if they do work, it usually takes longer than the time they specify. The examples I noted before, 2 days, 1 week, 1 month, takes longer than that. After chasing gimmick after gimmick, promise after promise, the only result to expect at the end of the day is burnt out. These short-term fixes usually leave the person feeling very fatigued, and it also breeds hatred of your curl pattern and hair texture and cultivates the belief that my hair simply can't grow. Number 8, your refusal to properly care for your hair is actually limiting you from growing your hair. With everything new, it usually takes time for things to develop. That goes for learning, structuring a hair care routine, and spending time with your hair as well. To be realistic, you have bad hair habits that you need to let go of. When I first started, I also had bad hair habits. Everybody has bad hair habits. You just have to give yourself some time to eliminate them. By eliminating these bad hair habits, you can create an environment that fosters growth and also maintains it. It takes patience, time, and diligence to learn and to structure a routine by spending time with your hair. What I mean by time in this context is months, years, not days, and not weeks, because that's short term and that doesn't last. When newly growing your hair, it usually takes 1 to 3 years to have a solid foundation. So I'm gonna give examples: braids, twists, wash and goes, relax, heat train. While your hair is being worn in these states, you must master them so that you can see positive affirmation results like length retention and hair growth inches. Learning to nurture and to care for your hair can be a step out of your comfort zone. This is a huge learning curve, but with time, things that you would normally stumble with will later become easier and second nature to you. Comparison will kill and bury any hair dreams, hair goals that you have. There are women with longer hair, thicker hair, shorter hair, curlier hair, thinner hair, tighter curls, looser curls, bigger hair. They are all beautiful in their own way. When you see someone with length that you would like, let that be a source of encouragement or inspiration to grow your very own hair. However, don't try comparing, sizing up, pitting yourself up against your source of encouragement. That's toxic. It also breeds jealousy and unhealthy expectations over time. And it's also a setup for great disappointment and regret. If you want to make comparison, take a photo of your hair and compare it to your hair after 4 to 6 months. Start comparing yourself to yourself. Stop basing your hair goals, your hair length, your length retention on somebody else's hair goals, hair length, and hair retention. Don't get me wrong, be inspired, but focus on yourself and your hair. And this rule of thumb also applies to life in general. 10. 100% relying on weaves and wigs can lead ladies to entirely neglecting their hair underneath, and it's also as easy to completely forget caring for your natural hair and to pick up bad hair care practices. The way you comb your weave will not be the same way you comb your natural hair. Ideally, you should take care of your weaves and wigs, but also maintain the hair underneath. Number 11. Expecting your hair to act or behave like your weaves and wigs is also limiting you from growing your hair long. These expectations are strange and absurd, but usually people do them. I want to remind you that straight textured hair, natural straight textured hair that comes from your hair will always behave different than your weaves and wigs. It's another texture, it's frizzier, it may be drier, it handles oils better, and it also reverts easily. There's so many other examples out there, but these are the few I want to name out to you. Even your kinky curly additions of hair extensions are a cosmetic enhancement. They are made to mimic the real deal, but they're not real or authentic. Example, fake breasts and fake buttocks are made to mimic humans. It might even enhance the look of the individual, but it's still fake and it does have its limitations. Take solace in the natural beauty that God has allotted to you. So even when it comes to kinky straight or kinky curly hair, it's still not authentically kinky hair. It's straight hair that's now processed with heat or chemicals that it's made to take on the pattern and look of your hair. At the core, it's still another person's texture and curl pattern. So unless you find somebody with type 4A, 4B, 4C hair and you cut it off and then add it onto a weft to later install on your head, that's the only way you're gonna have kinky curly hair that actually behaves like your own hair to the core. Due to overt pressures to have your hair look like a cosmetic enhancement, people begin to feel inferior, people begin to start putting down their very own hair, and people start thinking that there's something missing from them once these hair pieces are removed entirely.
So to further go into this topic, just like cosmetic procedures, your hair extension is a type of cosmetic enhancement. It is a form. Even sometimes we think about it as too simple, but it is a form because when you put it on, you begin to identify with yourself only when you have extensions on. This can be with braided extensions. This can be with any form of extension. So you begin to say, this is me, this is truly who I am. Because you've enhanced yourself and you identify with this person with long, luscious hair. But the problem comes with when you take off the extensions and you start to begin to feel ugly, you start to begin to feel down about yourself. There was nothing wrong with you to begin with. Your hair is what your hair is. But because you went and enhanced yourself, just like when girls go and they get breast implants, they no longer identify with who they were before the implants. So it's a balance. If you have the enhancements that you have, you also need to accept yourself when you take those enhancements out. It's a fine line between wanting to improve yourself and show a better version of yourself to the world, and then it causing you to reject who you are naturally. So, with that being said, just remember that when you take down your extensions, your natural hair is beautiful. When you take out anything, whether it's braided extensions, whether it's a weave, whether it's a sew-in, whether it's a wig, that person who you're looking at in the mirror is also you, and that person is beautiful as well. So that way, your confidence is not based in something that is removable. Your confidence, whether you have it, whether you don't have it, whether your toenails are painted, whether they're not painted, whether you have lashes, whether you don't have lashes, whether you have a full face of foundation, or whether you're barefaced, you're you 24/7, 7 days a week.
Number 12, perfect hair expectation is also limiting and stifling your hair care journey. It's an unrealistic expectation to have your hair fit the mold of a blunt haircut. Having a blunt haircut is stifling naturally because your hair wants to grow in a V shape. As it's growing, you continue to cut off the length of your hair, the newly grown hair, just to maintain a blunt haircut, which is your hair cut straight across. for that fuller looking hair. But as a result, you lose a lot of length in the process. So what I want to drill to you guys, if the length of your hair, the ends of your hair is usually the oldest part of your hair, it's been through life, through its ups and downs. If it's not split, don't cut it. If it's not damaged, don't cut it. If it does not have split ends, leave the scissors alone. Do not cut it. Don't let your hairstylist cut it. A blunt haircut is an aesthetic. An example I want to mention to you guys is ladies using the ancient shebe hair care practice. When you see women who use shebe on the continent of Africa, their hair at the front of their hair, right here, it's usually braided and it's usually shorter than the length towards the back in the rest of their hair. It's really unrealistic to have your hair cut like this. Another point I want to make is when you see these women, right? When you see these women who use this shebe powder, their ends of their hair is usually tapering off at the back or at the ends. The last 4 inches of their hair is usually in a taper. It's not thick from top to bottom. Some do have hair thick to bottom, but it's not thick to bottom all the time. Another point I want to make mention of is that the women who use shebe powder, they do not have scissors to run to. They are not cutting their hair quite often or frequently or even yearly. They're not cutting it at all. And still yet their hair is longer than mine, longer past their butt. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind, that do we really need scissors? Do you really need to cut that 4 to 5 inches of hair that has lightly thinned out from the wears and tears of life to obtain a blunt haircut? Because they don't have a blunt haircut. Their hair naturally tapers in a V. So what I want to make mention is stop trying to train your hair to be a blunt haircut and be thick. It's not realistic and it won't work for you in the long run. It's actually working against you. It's like a uphill battle. You're working against the grain. What don't work, stop trying to mold it to work. Because eventually what happens is these women who get blunt haircuts, right? These women who get the blunt haircuts, after time, they have to continue going to hairstylists to maintain that blunt haircut. But if they kept their hair in a natural V, they wouldn't have to be going to the hairstylist or the barber shop to get their ends trimmed as often. Like I mentioned before, if it's not split, if it's not damaged, if it doesn't have single strand knots, your hair is perfectly fine and it's at its healthiest point in life. Okay, guys? So my last point that I'd like to make is that people need to stop shaming women who have thin hair and thin ends. You're literally putting unrealistic expectation on women who have their hair form into a blunt haircut or hairstyle. Normally when people have thin hair is usually that's how much thickness that their head of hair has, or they're transitioning from a period of time where they were poorly keeping their hair and that will be reflected in the ends, right? Thinnest, oldest, poor hair care practice down here, transitioning up to healthy hair care practices. And that's where you see the natural gradient V. My point being is stop shaming women with the thin hair, the thin ends. If it's not split, like I mentioned before, if it's not damaged, if it's growing, it's not breaking, it's not damaged. Yeah, I said damaged twice, but like the point I'm trying to stress, if it's still healthy, leave it alone. It will eventually fade out and eventually it'll get cut.
So let's say you had bad acne back in the day due to not anything hormonal, but due to neglecting your skin. Let's say you're a teenager, you don't have a good skincare system, and your skin is just horrible due to the fact that you wash your face with bar soap. You get older, you start developing a skincare routine, but you still have dark scars around your face from back in the day when you weren't taking care of your skin as much. Okay, this is just hypothetical. This is not everyone's situation. So you begin to take care of your skin, and even though your skin is improving, you can still see a dark scar from a particular pimple that didn't want to go away. Does that mean you have bad skin? Does that mean all of your skin is bad just because you have a particular mark? No, the same concept applies to your hair. Give people a chance to fade out bad hair techniques, and when you do that, they will begin to fade out thin ends as well. So just give people grace. For you to have a solid foundation, even me speaking, for me to have a solid foundation, you need good techniques and repetitive behavior of those good techniques. So it's gonna be a long journey. I'm 2 years in right now. I expect 4 years to see my optimal hair. You can even see this with some YouTubers who have mastered their hair. You've mastered your hair, you can see the results. But for the women who are still figuring out the process, like most heat trained naturals are, you're still in the process of figuring out and experimenting, which I'm past that phase. Now the phase I'm in is repetition. It's repetition in order to get optimal results. So at the end of the day, don't look at someone's hair and say, oh, their hair is thin. They need a cut, honey. They need to do something with their hair. They need this, they need that. No, they don't. They're in the time of their life where before they used to treat their hair like trash, and now they care more about their hair. And you're seeing that gradual growth in hair care techniques and in their hair. With the shape of their hair is a story. Your hair tells a story. Oh my gosh, God is so good. Your hair is a storyteller. Once upon a time, I treated my hair like trash, and then I decided to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the story goes all the way to your roots. It's the same for relaxed hair or the same for heat trained hair. Once upon a time, she was treating her hair like trash and using tons of heat. And then she started to treat her hair better, so it's a little thicker up here. But her roots say that she is natural and she's an African woman, even though she wears her hair straight. So embrace your story. Embrace the story your hair tells. Don't let people shame you. Stand up. Okay? Okay.
So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for hearing my little spiel. It's actually a lot spiel, but a huge spiel. So right now I have unveiled some trouble areas and trouble spots you might even have struggling, or other women around you. So just let me know what your thoughts and opinions are about this topic down below in the comments section. But again, I want to tell you guys thank you. If you haven't already, make sure you comment, subscribe, and like this video while you're at it. And thank you guys for watching. Bye.